supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jen Cruz, your host tonight, and this is the Journey Radio Show. Hey, we're showing up as the She-Squatchers again because we are talking about Bigfoot and cryptids in Minnesota. Unfortunately, I do not have my trusty teammate on the line with me tonight. She's off being sick tonight, so best wishes to Jenna to get better. But hey, we're still the She-Squatchers, and our special guest tonight is coming to us from Minnesota, also our home state. We've got Joe Parkhurst, and you can find him on the Facebook page called Minnesota Bigfoot. He started investigating Bigfoot in 2016 after being inspired by YouTube investigator Utah Sasquatch. Using techniques said to be indicators of Bigfoot activity, Joe found promising locations along the forests of Minnesota and Mississippi rivers in Minnesota. After 4 seasons of investigating Bigfoot, having numerous encounters that were highly strange, Joe returned to his Ojibwe teachings regarding Sabe or Sasquatch. Joe has documented numerous encounters on video with Bigfoot. He's currently working on a Bigfoot documentary that is scheduled to be available in 2019. So, without any further delay, let's welcome Joe to the show. Hey, Joe, are you there?
I am here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I'm so glad you made it.
Me too.
Awesome. I'm just trying to get back into the chat room.
Sure.
And we're good. So tell me a little bit about what got you interested in Bigfoot in the first place. Was that your first odd love of things that are considered different?
Sure. Well, Bigfoot started for me back when I was a child, a child of the 70s. And that's where my curiosity really came from, watching movies and TV shows. I seen Bigfoot movies, whatnot. There's one down south. It was pretty scary back in the day, but now it's pretty campy and cheesy. But it got me into it. My first sighting happened when I was in about the 5th grade. I was getting picked up in Minneapolis by my uncle and my aunt, and went back up to the res, and over in Motley area, there's this S-curve switchback, and it goes by a church, and in the woods was this really tall person that stood up and walked into the woods even further. And my aunt was really excited, and she said, "Do you see that? Do you see that?" And she asked my uncle, "Do you see that?" Then she started yelling back to us kids. It was myself and my 2 cousins, if we seen it. And I seen it, and my cousins seen it. We all seen it. And that was my first eyewitness of a Bigfoot. And I didn't know what to think of it. My aunt said, "Oh, he's our protector. He's our protector. That's neat. We got to see our protector." So from that point, it was always kind of like, it's cool. He's not going to hurt us or anything because he's our protector. Then you get older, and you start, you move from curiosity of that and get into regular life. You get into sports and everything that we do, and so that was about 30 years of just living life. And then one day I was sitting around watching Finding Bigfoot, watching these guys go out in the woods, pound on things. And I thought, that's pretty strange. That's one way of looking for it. Then I go back home up to Red Lake and talk with people, and we talk about the different things that have happened up there, what people have had experienced up there. And it just got me wondering more about Bigfoot and the cross section between mainstream investigators and what people back home were experiencing and what our cultural beliefs were, because they're quite different, with they're quite different. But So I was watching Utah Sasquatch after finding Bigfoot came, and was watching Utah Sasquatch, and he was a very intriguing guy. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that guy? Utah
Mm-mm.
Sasquatch. Well, his name is Nathan Rio. He's a very intriguing guy, charismatic guy. And he just was pretty cool. So he said, this is what you look for. And what he was really doing was just restating what was already known within the Bigfoot community. And that was cool because he gave a different kind of feel for it. So you'd say, like, this is what you look for when you're out in the field. And he gave some of his own ideas on height and all these different things. So I decided to get off my couch and go out and start hiking in the Minneapolis area, and particularly around the rivers, because the rivers are sacred in our culture. The water is sacred, and especially Mississippi and Minnesota rivers, they're very sacred. So I thought, if Bigfoot is around, he'll be in areas that were sacred to us. And I started looking, and people were like, what are you doing? You can't find him there. You're too close to the city. And I said, well, if you understand Bigfoot like I understand Bigfoot, you'd know that he's actually supposed to be around people. That's his whole thing. He's supposed to be here to help us. So it makes sense that he's with people not far off. So that's one huge difference between mainstream investigators and where I come from, is that he's actually always near us. So that's what.
Can you explain to the listeners a little bit about the Ojibwe belief systems that you're talking about why you think that, or why you believe that, and where that comes from? Because it would be nice for them to understand that a little bit better, I think.
Sure. Okay. So with the Ojibwe, when we get to talking about our lifestyles and whatnot, so you have stories, and stories are meant to be told in the winter. So they're not really supposed to be told right now, but I won't really tell stories, but I'll explain a little bit about Bigfoot. Now, Bigfoot in our community, so everybody in mainstream, and I'll just use mainstream, the whole of society that's bigger than the Ojibwe culture, the American society is familiar with Christianity, and they're familiar with the flood. The flood with Noah's Ark and that whole thing. A lot of people understand that. Well, in our viewpoint, what was happening on our side of the world when that happened was the same thing, was flooding. But we had different animals that we could converse with and talk to, help us. And one of them was the eagle. And he went up and spoke with the creator. And I'm kind of telling a story, and I shouldn't be, but so the eagle went up, and everybody thought that he was dead. He wasn't coming back. I said, oh no, the eagle sacrificed himself, and so then 2 or 3 or 4 days, whatever, went by, and the eagle came back and said, yeah, I'm back. And they said, well, what happened? And he said, well, I got up there, and the creator said, who's up here in my space? And the eagle said, it is me, Migazi. So what do you want, Migazi? And he said, well, I know you're flooding the earth, and you're killing everyone down there, but there are some good Anishinaabe people down there. Anishinaabe means people. There are good people down there. Don't kill everyone. He said, well, what would you have me do? Well, why don't you send somebody to help them? Send somebody to guide them, to teach them. And he said, Migazi, you're wise. I'll go ahead and send someone to help them. You go back and let them know. So then he came back, and that's when he told people that the rain would be stopping. And he sent Sabe, and Sabe came down here from the creator's world to help guide us and have us live in a good way with Earth. And so that's the flood story. That's our flood story. And from that day after the flood, we had lived in a good way. And that's, if you go into the Confederacy rules, that there's a great law of peace, I think it is. And then you have Cahokia, which is down in Missouri. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that a lot of people don't know about. And so I just went ahead and used the teachings that I had, where Sabe came down to help us. And if that's the case, then he can travel as a spirit being should be able to travel. And that's what I found in my investigations. And I got video and audio, and it's some crazy stuff.
Well, that's so interesting. I haven't heard that story before, so thank you for sharing it. And I think it's okay to always tell stories.
I'm hoping the greater good is what I'm thinking, right?
I think it's okay. I think they say story time is winter time because they didn't have anything else to do in the winter except tell stories. And that's in
Right,
the summer they should be outside playing. Well, that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing right now. So
right, right. And with Bigfoot, the difference also with our cultures, um, is he is a spirit. He is spiritually here to help us, and that's the one thing that really has been profound in my journey is that capturing the video evidence that I have on my YouTube channel and um, trying to put everything in perspective. If here's my thing. If these stories were stories and Migazi went up and foretold of Sabe coming and now Sabe is here, well then that means there is a creator, and that means that there was a flood, and that means that he's Sabe is still here. I know where to find him, and he's everywhere. So it's like if that's real, it means so much more.
so you said you've had experiences that kind of support that, but you
Yeah.
had those experiences first and then you that kind of drove you back to the teachings. Is that how that happened?
Yeah, so I started in the summer of 2016, and I was finding these landmarks, and people are familiar with the tree leans and the double leans and the triple leans and the X's, and um, they're familiar with these different landmarks that are supposed to be indicators that Bigfoot is in the area. Well, uh, I would find these and start looking, and I would have the scent. I've had the scent happen to me a couple of times, and it's just terrifying. And I've had the experience of the sudden need to run away without no rational explanation. I mean, just all of a sudden, this sudden need that you need to get out of there. And I'm in the middle of a city. I'm not far away from people, but it still hits you. It hits you like a ton of bricks. And it didn't just hit me. It hit some people that I took with me out in the field, where all of a sudden they'd get jittery and say, "We got to go." And I was like, "What's going on?" And then, so I mean, it's real, these things that happened. So when that started happening and I couldn't explain what was going on, and I would have these you would have these noises that okay, so one time I was down at the Mississippi River and I got growled at. It's on YouTube, and it was the weirdest thing. It was a low guttural growl, and I turned around expecting to see an animal down there. I was expecting to see a dog or a cougar, because I had found cougar tracks down along the river, but there was nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. And it just really, really, really stunned me. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that something had growled at me, and then I was hoping it was caught on camera. And I went back home and reviewed, and it was right there, clear as day. And then that's when I started noticing that a lot of the evidence that I capture, a lot of it is audio, and sometimes you get visuals. So a lot of the visuals are like sparks, like lights. Some people say eye shine, but uh, when you're in the darkness and you don't have anything to reflect an eye, and you get a light, that to me is something emitting light. It's not something that's reflecting. So there's something that happens out there where lights happen. Yeah, so that's where I started looking back at the Ojibwe way, and what we were doing with them, knowing that they're spiritual beings, and versus looking for a gorilla that beds in the because when I first started looking, I was looking along the Mississippi River. So along the Mississippi River, they have these sewer uh, rainwater runoffs. So I started thinking they're probably running in there. They're probably getting in there. Well, then for the size that they're supposed to be, some of them they couldn't get into it. And then for the experiences where I was having them and capturing them on video, they should be found in our city. People should have already, if they're gorillas, if they're a purely physical being, then they should have been found already. But nobody's ever said anything. So, but with the video evidence and the footprints, I've casted a foot. Uh, it didn't hold up too well. I never did a cast before, but it's got some really long. It's just really weird, but it was there. That's on YouTube too. Um, Everything that I've talked about is there's always things up on YouTube, so it's really wild.
Gotcha. I know when we were first doing casts, ours didn't turn out good at all. But we, in our defense, we were trying to cast in a gravel pit, and
Right.
everybody says that's totally difficult to do. But we got some good pointers now for if we find them in a gravel pit again. So we're ready.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I've heard other natives talk about around gravel pits. They always have sightings. They'll get sightings around gravel pits, Wisconsin, Minnesota. And I talked with a guy named Dustin who's rock hounding with Bigfoot, and he's down in Colorado. And he started out rock hound. He's a rock hound, so he just looks for gems and crystals and stuff like that. Then one day he got roared at, like roared. He caught it on video. It was the weirdest thing. Um, I talked to him and given him some advice and stuff, and he's followed it and it's worked wonderful. But there's something with rocks and Bigfoot, and I know in our culture, if you pray, you can stack rocks, and each rock has a prayer on it, and that's so. If you're out in the woods and you come across stacked rocks, that's what that means. A lot of people say it's markers, but in some cultures, it's also prayers. So somebody could be out there praying. What are they praying for? I don't know, but if Bigfoot is a spiritual guide, he could be praying for just humanity's well-being. I don't know.
It could be very much so. And if you've ever stacked rocks, it's not easy to get them to balance that many
Yeah.
high. You kind of
Yeah.
have to be centered within yourself. I remember one day I tried to stack rocks all day and I couldn't get them to stand. And then a different day that week, I did a little meditation, and all of a sudden I reached over and I stacked 7 rocks high in just like 2 seconds, and it stood through a storm.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like, how did that happen? You just have to really be in your center place to be able to
Yeah.
get them to stack and stay balanced up like that. Very
Absolutely.
much.
Down where I investigate, there's 2 big boulders, and on top of those boulders, sometimes there's if they're here's my marker. If they're down there, then there's stacks, there's rock stacks on top of those boulders, and sometimes there's more than 4 for sure, and yeah, it's not easy to stack them. I tried, and it's just like I've got better things to do, but there they are. So, but they stack them, and yeah, it's weird.
Awesome. I encourage everybody to try to stack rocks just to see how difficult it is to get them to stay stacked up in
Yeah,
balance.
exactly.
Yeah. And then do a little meditation and try again. It's pretty cool how easy it becomes after you've done a meditation. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now you investigate too, right?
Yes, we do. We're doing an all female Bigfoot experiment. And so we typically go out without men, dogs, or guns,
Right.
which a lot of Bigfooters out there are like, you go out without guns? You shouldn't do that. You could get hurt. There could be some dangerous animals out there. Even other people, people are usually get very concerned for us.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say we haven't had an issue. So we're good.
The people are the big scary part for me. That's the only thing I've outside of some encounters. So, I've had some encounters with Bigfoot where we had a visual sighting last year, and it got pretty hectic, and a gun won't do anything. So I mean, I don't take a gun either. But I would like a gun for the people, because in the city it gets rough down on the river. It can get in a hurry. So that's the only reason I'd want it. But otherwise, I'd rather not have a gun down there. Um, but yeah, it's so strange so you go out and you investigate. Have you experienced? Oh, here's something I want to share with you. In my experiences with them along the river here in Minneapolis, whether it's Mississippi or Minnesota, there's 3 people. They're not knocks. They're like a pop can. They're like a metal, like a ting ting ting. But there are 3 of them, and they're not always fast. Sometimes it's ting ting ting, and I don't ever hear them. That's not true. I rarely hear them in live, but I'll come across them in review. And as I come across them, there's a correlation between hearing the tings and feeling the urge to leave. When you're out there, have you had the urge to leave an area?
I have, and um, and then I felt very strongly, it is time to go right now, right now. And I was barreling to get out of there.
Right.
But we've had rocks thrown at us. I mean, never to the point of trying to hit us. You could tell they weren't trying to hit us. They were just making it known to us they didn't want us to walk that way. And
Yeah.
I respected that. I went around it that way.
Yeah.
But it was later on, all of a sudden I felt very uneasy and kind of scared. And all of a sudden, okay, we've overstayed our welcome. We need to go right now.
Yeah.
And it was very clear to me, that feeling.
In my location, I've had rocks thrown at me twice. Once during the a more pre-dusk, so there was still more light than not light, and another time way in the dusk. So kind of like right now, it's dark outside. It's getting more dark, and when you got a canopy above you, it's really dark, you know. And the rocks. Here's a thought that I had on the rocks. When the rocks landed and hit, they were like right beside us. You know, like they should have been within 5 feet of us. You could hear it. There's a thump, like a deep thump, thump. And my thought was, we didn't hear the rocks being that heavy. We didn't hear the rocks breaking any branches or any twigs, going through any leaves. It was just all of a sudden, thump, like a thud, a really heavy thud. And my thought was, if they're spiritual beings, then that could be a, them manifesting next to us and thumping with their foot. Was just a thought of mine, because there's nothing there. I couldn't hear a rock coming. I couldn't hear a rock that should have been breaking twigs and whatnot coming through the air.
Mm-hmm. I haven't. When we've had rocks thrown at us, we've always heard them coming through the trees.
Yeah.
Yep, and then we actually see them bouncing on the ground in front of us.
You've seen them.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're usually 3-4 feet in front of us, and there's usually more than one, because I'm like, I think that was a rock, and then here comes another one.
Yeah.
You get to see it hit, hearing it come through the branches, and they're usually just little ones, 50 cent to a dollar,
Okay.
silver dollar piece size. They're never really big. I know other Bigfoot researchers, like from Ohio, that have had big, huge rocks whip past barely miss their head.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, obviously they're not Minnesota nice.
Right. And that's the with the rocks. It's so the video recording we have of June 21st, where we got them. There's a weird anomaly that happened with the video. A lot of people pass it off as banding, but I've investigated. I've had experts who are in the video look at it and say the banding doesn't make sense because it's on a mobile. Banding happens when you have a power surge over a cable line, right? Or especially the type of banding that happened in the video, where the video is it's a slow scroll like this. You can have some caused by lights, but that the video before the encounter, there was none of this banding going on. The light is strong, just like it is right here. But during the encounter, there's these black bands that happen. And during that experience, when the rocks came, that's where they were like 5 feet off to the side. And it was just it made no sense that you couldn't hear, because I sat there, I listened to my audio as a former singer. I put my audio through, and I pick it up, and I enhance it, make it louder. And there's nothing. There's no twigs breaking, nothing. It's just thuds. And they guided us out. They walked us out of the area right up. Didn't do anything to us. We had a really strong scent right towards the entrance, which is actually the exit, because we were leaving. But it was like they were right there. Yeah, the rocks are something else. That's oh, have you ever heard of another correlating factor with that? Fireflies. Have you ever heard of fireflies being an indicator?
No.
Yeah, because that night was the first time we had seen fireflies in Minneapolis. I'm 46, and I haven't seen fireflies in the city since maybe I was 40 years, since well, 30, since I was like 12. So a long time I haven't seen fireflies in the city. And so there was fireflies that night we had the incident. We had two different video captures that night. And after that experience happened, I went in and started investigating, and I used DuckDuckGo. I'm not familiar. Are you familiar with DuckDuckGo?
No.
It's an alternative to Google, and it gives you a far broader, more expansive search. They don't curate like Google does. So Google curates what you see. DuckDuckGo, just you type it in, you get it. And I typed in the lightning bugs and paranormal, and there it was. It popped up. There was strong correlation with lightning bugs and Bigfoot back in the 70s. And but that kind of thing I hadn't heard of until I got curious about it, because it just seems so mystical. Some of the things that happened, like one of the things, and I noticed it when I was down there filming that night, the lightning bugs, when they would, sometimes there wasn't a bug there. It was just a flash of light. And I just put it off as too dark, but after we had that experience, it really makes you question reality when I had that experience. And and I'm glad I'm not the only one. There was myself, my sister, our friend Ms., who is really cool, and my wife, and my wife is a skeptic, but she always talks about, when she talks about that night, she says, I don't know what happened. Something happened. Something's down there, but yeah.
Well, on that note, we're going to have to take a break with our commercial break. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back with Minnesota Bigfoot, Joe Parkhurst. All right, we're still recording on the video, but we're probably at commercial break now.
Okay.
So yeah.
Any particular direction you'd like to go from this point?
I don't know what you have to share, so.
Oh, that's so that's I wanted to share the spiritual aspect of him, and we've done that.
Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna ask you if you have done a prayer to Bigfoot during an encounter.
Sure. Okay. First.
And then if there was a reaction.
Okay.
$30 seconds.
Okay.
$10. And roll.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Jen Cruz, your host, and this is The Journey Radio Show. When we are not live on the air like we are right now, you can find us at thejourneyradioshow.com. And hey, we're the She-Squatchers, so check us out at SheSquatchers.com. And also check out our Facebook page. There'll be a link there to that. Please like and follow us there for all the in-the-moment stuff of what's going on with us on our Facebook page. And hey, we do have a YouTube channel, She-Squatchers Official. Come check it out. Sometimes our shows here are uploaded in video format to our YouTube channel, if that's available for the video. So you can check that out at a later date. And tonight we've got Minnesota Bigfoot, Joe Parkhurst here. That's his name of his His Facebook page is Minnesota Bigfoot, so you can find him there. Please do go like his page and follow that. And so we're going to get back into our conversation. I wanted to ask Joe, I know that you're Ojibwe from the Red Lake Nation up in northern Minnesota. And when you've been having an encounter with Bigfoot, have you ever tried saying like a traditional Ojibwe prayer to Bigfoot? And if so, was there any reaction to that?
Sure. So in 2016, I started my investigation. It led me from south of the river where Highway 77 is. So it led me from Cedar by the Mall of America all the way up to near downtown Minneapolis. I followed the signs all the way up. And the biggest area where I have the biggest encounter is actually near my home. And one time I went down into this gorge and I was walking down there and I was filming, and this is on video. I don't know if it's on my channel on YouTube or not. But I was filming, I think a piece of it is. And all of a sudden I was just hit with not the urge to leave. I was hit with like a debilitating like I thought I was having a heart attack is what I thought I was having. And I said, Anin Niji, I'm not your enemy or anything. I'm just here to see you and talk to you, and I don't mean you any harm. I'm not trying to do anything. Anishinaabe, and please don't hurt me. You know, I don't speak fluent, and I've got just enough Gaween and Beka and some different command words as a kid growing up, you know, what to do. But after I had said I'm Anishinaabe, that feeling subsided like immediately. And on the video, when I was reviewing the video and I was talking, I had the video up in front of me, and there was a white light that came into the screen and darted out. So when I said I was Anishinaabe, the white light came in and then took off. And that's almost immediately when I started to feel better, like I could stand up. So yeah, there's he, you know, Sabe is a protector, but he also, you know, a part of being a protector means that you will protect. So that means that you have to have a way of getting people to leave, otherwise you can't be a protector, you know. So that form of him having me leave, I wouldn't say was physical, but then again, if he's spiritual, who's to say? I've watched so many spiritual shows, ghost hunters, since I started looking at the spiritual aspect of Sabe, that in ghost hunters say that spirits can enter your body and they can make you sick and they can really mess with you. So if Sabe can take physical, now some people, have you ever heard of Nephilim?
Yes.
Okay. So some people say they compare Bigfoot to Nephilim. And first I took offense to that. I was like, no way, you know, stop putting that on top of me. That's Bigfoot's my guy. But then I was like, wait a minute, let's just hear this out. And I started thinking more objectively about it. And it makes sense, you know, that he was sent by the creator. We just have different names, you know, different names for the same being. Get you Sabe versus Nephilim, you know, and so yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and there is I've not experienced mind speak, as people say, but I have experienced EVPs. Are you familiar with EVPs?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So yep. So I went out and I got a call from a native lady out on 35W, about 40 miles from the house. She said there's something out here, and my husband's seen it and it scared him, and I want you to come out and take a look. And so I went out and I looked, and it was wintertime, and it's up on my channel. I have to look at the exact date. I'm not sure. I think it's probably February, maybe. And it's right off, the location is right next to a big reserve. And that's another thing too, so there's a big nature reserve, and there's a YWCA. So I walked in back there, and I got to an area, and I always just go with my feelings. I always just if I trust my feelings, if I feel like I shouldn't go to the left, I won't go to the left. If I feel like I shouldn't go to the right, I don't go to the right. I always listen to my feelings. And I walked back there, and it was dark, and I just had my little flashlight, and it was cool. I could see, but something just told me that's far enough. So I stopped, and I filmed a little bit, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna head out, guys, and I was walking back. And as I got to the end of the trail back there, I was sitting there, and this is about 15 minutes I was down there total. At the end, I was like, all right, Gigawatt, man, right? And that's see you tomorrow, right? And on that recording, I reviewed it, and there it was. They replied. There was a reply on there that is still blows my mind. And the reply got me looking into different things because
what was the reply?
I can't make it out. I can't make it out. It's just there. It's just there. It's a sound that should not be there, is the best way to put it. There was this ranger that was he was working in Yellowstone forever, and he retired. And he came out after his retirement and talked about his experiences with Bigfoot in Yellowstone. And he said the best way for me to put it is that they're mechanical sound. And that's some of the recordings that I have is they're mechanical sound. And I don't know why that is. If it's, that's why I started talking with some ghost hunters about the EVPs on why it is we get some weird sounds on it, and it has to do with dimensions and stuff, and I don't know enough about it, but it's there. So when I say Gigawatt, and they're there and they respond. And I've noticed now, no matter where I am, if I have that location, and I know that they're there in that area, if I speak Ojibwe to it when I'm leaving, or even when I'm down there investigating, I speak Ojibwe, they'll respond. And they can be right on top of you. You'll never know. My video that I had where the lines were going across like this, well, they're just going down like that, right? And they're big black lines, and that's not weird. I mean, that's weird. But the other weird part is if you watch these lines on that video that I've posted, it goes down like this, and then right here you see my finger. So like you can see my finger now, but then you don't see it. And for the majority of it, you don't see my finger, but then all of a sudden you see it. And the finger's a branch. There's a branch that's in that video that you can't see, and then all of a sudden you see it. And can't explain that. That even with the banding, you should always see that branch, but it just appears. And are you familiar with missing 411?
Yes.
So I am too. And I know that along the Mississippi rivers, there are people who have gone missing, people who have turned up drowned, people under mysterious circumstances. And I know that Bigfoot's down there, and I know that he's a protector, and I know that if he don't want you down there for whatever his reasons are, you shouldn't be down there. But if you don't get out there, could you go missing? And that's when I had that happen, I stopped going down to the river. I stopped. I'll go up to the top and I'll talk and I'll say my prayers and say thank you, whatnot, but I won't go into his air. I took my cousin down. He came down from the res. He was going out to Alaska for a training. I said, come here, I want to show you. So I took him down there. After I took him down there, within that next week, we don't know when, but I got a handprint on the back of my door about super big, and it's on my Facebook page. And the thumb on that thing is tremendously huge. I mean, it is super huge. So our doorbell is cut off. We cut off the doorbell. We don't like the doorbell, so we had it cut off. So you can't really ring the doorbell. But there were some wires that were kind of coming out of the door frame, and the cats would dig at them and pull them out. And when they would pull at it, you would get a doorbell ring, right? So my wife said, go ahead and cut that out there. So she cut that out there, and there was nothing. So there's no way for the doorbell to ring. Well, 2 weeks ago, a doorbell started ringing at 10:30 at night. Bing, 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 bing. I was like, what's that? And I looked out the back door. There was nobody there. My son looked out the front door. There was nobody there. And we were just like, well, that's strange, and I've always said, Slabe's followed us home. He's here, because. So are you familiar with Nana Buju?
Yes.
Okay.
But you should tell the listeners who Nana Buju is, because they probably don't know.
Okay. So Nana Buju is there's a couple different. Now I've talked with a couple different people on Nana, and some say he's a trickster, and there's others who say he's sent down. He's our guide, sent down to help us. Which version do you know? I mean, they're one and the same, right?
Yeah.
Trickster and a guide. So that's where also I say Gichisabe is Nana Buju. And so, I mean, in my own little circle, we have long talks about what is what. And we still can't decide amongst ourselves what is what, you know? But Nana Buju, I said, oh, Nana Buju's here, you know, he followed us home because we'd lose keys. We would set the keys on top of the counter and nobody would, just me and my wife, and our granddaughter's gone and their mom and dad are gone. And it's just me and my wife. And then we can't find the keys and our cats are outside. There's nobody. The keys should be where they are, but they're not there. So then you'd say, okay, well, we got to get going. Nana Buju, haha, funny, get back. And then the keys would be in her purse or would be someplace. And you could say, yeah, they were just left there. She just forgot about them. But there's so many other instances. That's just one instance. When you start having many instances, you can't keep going back with saying, oh, well, that's just a lot of forgetfulness going on. We would be fired from our jobs. So that's just, it just doesn't. So yeah, I say Nana Buju's here. And so when the doorbell was ringing, I said, well, Nana Buju's playing a joke, you know? And then the doorbell just started going crazy, like bing, 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 bing. So much so it actually frightened my wife. She said, that's enough. She didn't know really what to do, you know, with that. And there's a big handprint on the back of my window and my back door window, and it's there on my Facebook Minnesota Bigfoot page. So listeners want to go check that out.
I've got a listener in the chat room who says handprint on the door or the window. Is that where we know where you live reminder, or what's that? What do you think that's about?
Well, yeah, see, and that's where I said I think they attach to us, and I say attached because the ghost hunters I talk about their spiritual entities and their location they go to can attach to them too. And if Sabe or Bigfoot is a spiritual guide and he likes you, he could follow you, you know. So he's not a detriment to us. He's here to guide us and help us. So what does that mean exactly? That means that you might get favors. Things might fall in line with you. You know, when you say, oh, I have a stroke of luck, it could be that. So when he put his hand on the window, I had walked down into his location with my cousin a full year after that last encounter where they walked me out. And I said I wasn't going to do it. I actually recorded it. I haven't even looked back at that recording and reviewed it like I normally do with my other ones, just because I was kind of weirded out about what I might see. I don't know if there are parts, and you might know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you're not sure if you want to see what you want to see. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, I might have got the footage, but I don't know if I'm ready to see it yet. You know? So I took my cousin down to see the location where I was, and then after that, that's when the handprint and the doorbell ringing happened.
All right. Well, yeah, that's
Do they have
interesting.
any other questions? That'd be cool if they had questions. I'd love to answer questions.
Well, the same person said the handprint could be assigned to anything else protected by squatches, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
No, it's wide open. You know, I don't have the answers. I'm just learning. That's why my investigation, I got as far as I did, and I'm comfortable with it. Now I'm trying to come out with a documentary to explain and encapsulate what I've experienced so that others can take it a step further if they want to.
And then, as somebody else had said earlier about the mechanical sounds, she said, it reminds me of the stories from Skinwalker Ranch where there's tales of underground mechanical sounds. And I'm just going to add to that and tell you that, you know, my mom is a Red Lake Band member too. And so I've spent a lot of time up there on the reservation talking with people and looking around. And a lot of the evidence that we find is from up there.
Yeah.
Not connected to Bigfoot sightings, but the lights that come out of the lake.
Oh, yeah.
I had somebody report to me that they heard a bunch of mechanical sounds, like big booms, and like somebody was out there with some major equipment doing some major construction operation. And so they went down, it was nighttime, they went down and looked at the lake, and they could see the lights right under the water zooming around, different colored of lights. And it just seemed like they were building something under the water.
Right. Yeah.
So weird.
My uncle's seen a city come out of there. And
He did?
yeah, he's a cop, retired cop out there, and he was coming back. He was coming back from not War Road, but that casino out. You used to call it Farm Station Road. Now they have a name for it. I forget what it is. But that casino out there, he was coming back, and when he got to the I don't know what that is, but he took a right to go down around the west end of Red Lake and come back into town. And when he was driving up on that T, there was a city out there, a big city, all lit up. And he said
in the lake.
Yeah, above the lake. Yeah, above the lake, floating above the lake,
Hovering above the lake.
Yep. And not like way up in the air, but like if you're looking at, imagine at the city of Chicago. He said it was huge, and it was in the middle of the lake.
Wow. And so what kind of lights was it? Like,
he didn't elaborate. He just said it looked just like a city. So I imagine, the orange and white lights of skyscrapers and whatnot.
uh-huh.
So he said it looked just like a city out in the middle of the lake. And yeah, it was weird. There's a lot of UFOs out there on that res. The ceded lands are great. Panema's a powerful place. Panema still frightens me.
I was named in Panema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, he's thick down there. He's Bigfoot's all over down there. Did you hear about the setting they had at the school? Gosh, maybe about 9 years ago.
Oh, tell us.
They had a Bigfoot sighting, and the police were involved. They actually, it was a trackway. They followed footsteps from the school they were building, and the school had a 10-foot fence around it, and the footsteps walked right through the fence. So it didn't hop or nothing. The footsteps just continued. So they followed it, and they followed it all the way out into the brush. And then at some point, the guys just said, we'll just stop, So they just stopped. But there was that, and then they had somebody caught it on video here just recently, yelling from the back of town. So just this moaning, a really loud moan, scared these young guys, these young 30-year-olds so much they went to go get their guns and just to be protected, because they didn't know what it was back there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some active stuff going on up there. And so where the casino, do you know where the casino is on 89?
Yeah.
So if you go down that fire road that's back there, there's that's where that moaning is coming from now. And when I was a kid 20 some years ago, there was something that went running through that so you're on a fire road. If you go shining down there, something ran through that brush, knocked over a tree, and was not a bear, and it was powerful. And I had another, so that we didn't see anything, but when you hear that, and it doesn't make sense, and you've got 30-06s, and you're loaded, you're not worried about nothing, but something tells you this is not normal, So they're all over up there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've found some pretty cool things up there. We found footprints that even Bobo from Finding Bigfoot looked at, and he said he saw the incline of the hill. He said there is no way that could have been a bear. There is no way that could have been a human. That had to be a Squatch. It's too steep.
Yeah.
And it's too steep of a hill to walk up without putting your hands down.
January 2017. So the first 6 months that I started investigating Bigfoot, I come across footprints down in my location area. And I have a documentary out already on my YouTube channel I think it's called The First 6 Months of Bigfoot or something like that. And I stepped in those footprints, and you can see the toes very clearly. But the thing that I learned that day was what they meant by the metatarsal break. I never understood what they talked about when they said the metatarsal break. Didn't understand it. But when I put my foot in it with my boot on, the arch, it's a triangle. You know, the metatarsal break, when it freezes, it's a triangle, and that triangle is so sharp it hurt the arch of my foot through a boot, and you couldn't walk in the footprints because the metatarsal break would hurt your foot so much. And that's when I knew that I was onto something. When I had those footprints, I had so many different experiences the first 6 months that I kind of, at first I was like, no way, but then I found the footprints. I had some FLIR footage that just, some things just still I can't wrap my mind around. But it's been a wonderful experience and a wonderful journey to go out there and look for Bigfoot, and to have the knowledge that I gained about my culture come out on top of it, and people coming through from my culture to share with me their experiences and what they know, so that we have this more understanding of our own culture, our own being that was here, that thankfully some guy in California brought up in the 60s, right? Was it Patterson?
Yep.
So it's been a really cool experience. I wouldn't suggest it for everybody, and I would always tell people to be careful, not so much of there's a lot of different reasons to be careful. I would never suggest somebody go out into the night and do a investigation in an area that you haven't done a day investigation of first, because if you get hit with that feeling to run, and you run, and you could run over a boulder, you could break a leg, you could, a lot of bad things could happen in the dark. So make sure that you always scout your area before you go out looking.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. When we're traveling, though, to other places to do speaking at events, which we're leaving next week to go speak at the Virginia Bigfoot Conference in the state of Virginia.
Nice.
And so oftentimes when we're doing events far away, we go on Bigfoot hunts where they're choosing the area that we're going to, and we don't know that's the area. So, we were on top of a mountain down in Tennessee last October, and we got some really cool thermal footage down there. But,
Yeah.
But we could have easily, took off running off the side of a cliff.
Yep.
So we're out there doing stuff in areas that we're really unfamiliar with when we're on the road like that. But we're coming to the end of the show. I want everybody to go check out Minnesota Bigfoot on Facebook. And what is the name of your YouTube channel, real quick?
YouTube Minnesota Bigfoot.
Minnesota Bigfoot. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We'll hope you come on another time. We'll have to set that up. And have a good night, and good luck squatching out there, everybody. Good night.